I have a terrific guest coming on in a few minutes, Charles Lipson. You've heard him before. He is a professor emeritus from the University of Chicago, taught political science and international relations, and he's written quite a bit about the Trump debate and the Stephanopoulos interview with Biden and whatnot, and we're going to get his opinion on what's going on in this race. Quite frankly, I'm already done. I'm already tired of the rhetoric, tired of listening to people. Is he in? Is he out? Is he in? Is he out? Who's on second? I mean, what's the lineup look like? If it's not him, is it Kamala? If it's Kamala, who's her VP? I mean, this is such a distraction from everything else that Americans are experiencing, and I think that's what they want. Why? Do they want to talk about Biden's policies? Hell no. The media certainly doesn't want to. They simply want to talk about like the fact that they finally woke up. Oh my gosh, Biden's not capable anymore. Really? Come on. Nobody's falling for this. Absolutely nobody is falling for this. Now, there was an interesting article today, and it's a left-wing leaning magazine, The Guardian. This is Rebecca Solnit. She wrote, yes, Biden had a bad debate, but so did Trump. Trump did well in that he controlled himself. That's very good. And he had his talking points down, but could he have done better? Absolutely. He had so many policy successes in his first 4 years. He could have talked about him in a lot more detail. But, sometimes you play down to your opponent, and that's certainly what he did that night of the debate. Anyway, she continues, the media is once again repeating the mistakes of 2016. She says, I'm not usually one to offer diagnosis of people I've never met, but it does seem like the pundit class of the American media is suffering from severe memory loss because they're doing exactly what they did in the 2016 presidential race, providing wildly asymmetrical, inflammatory coverage of the one candidate running against Donald J. Trump. They have become a stampeding herd, producing an avalanche of stories suggesting Biden is unfit, will lose, and should go away, at a point in the campaign in which replacing him would likely be somewhere between extremely difficult and utterly catastrophic. She's right. They do this while ignoring something every scholar and critic of journalism knows well, and every journalist should. As Nicole Hannah-Jones put it, as media, we consistently proclaim that we are just reporting the news when, in fact, we are driving it. What we cover, how we cover it, determines often what Americans think is important and how they perceive these issues, yet we keep pretending it's not so. Okay, that's the part of her article that I want to read. The media is channeling your energy and your focus on Biden rather than looking at Biden's disastrous policies and having a policy debate instead of a personality debate. I'm happy to have the personality debate too, because he's an utter disaster. But on the policy front, he is a traitor, in my opinion, and he's extremely dangerous for national security. Now, if you need any other assurances about where we stand on this, I want to just play you 2 minutes of Biden and Stephanopoulos, and then I'll follow up with 2 minutes of Trump and Dr. Phil. Take a listen.
Your friend Nancy Pelosi actually framed the question that I think is on the minds of millions of Americans. Was this a bad episode or the sign of a more serious condition?
It was a bad episode. No indication of any serious condition. I was exhausted. I didn't listen to my instincts in terms of preparing, and I had a bad night.
You say you were exhausted, and I know you've said that before as well, but you came, and you did have a tough month, but you came home from Europe about 11 or 12 days before the debate, spent 6 days in Camp David. Why wasn't that enough rest time, enough recovery time?
Because I was sick. I was feeling terrible. Matter of fact, the docs with me, I asked if they did a COVID test because they were trying to figure out what was wrong. They did a test to see whether or not I had some infection, a virus. I didn't. They just had a really bad cold.
And listen, that's enough of that. They barely got through 1 minute, but seriously, this 22-minute conversation that a very friendly interviewer had with Joe Biden, George Stephanopoulos, was simply all it was about was the president's health, the president's polling numbers. He denied everything about his polling numbers, saying that it's really a toss-up now. That's not true. Of course, Trump is up. even more so now after this interview with Stephanopoulos than so. But I mean, think about him, contrast him with Trump. Now you're going to hear a lot about Dr. Phil laying out some numbers for Trump, but then let's listen to what Trump says in response.
Look at this. Everybody calls it inflation, but affordability. When we talk about gasoline under your administration, average $2.57 a gallon. Under Biden, $3.61, 40% more. Under your administration, homes average $320,000. Under the Biden administration, 31% more, $420,000. Under your administration, interest rates 3.8 average. Under the Biden administration, 39% more at 5.3%. Okay, now let's look at the border. Under you, average 1.7 million border crossings. Their official number is 6.4. That's from Homeland Security. It's actually about 13 million because I know I've been to the border. I've talked to the border guards down there, Brandon Judd. I've talked to Jason Jones. I've talked to the people that actually know the numbers. They say it's between 10 and 13 million. So my point is, when you look at the actual numbers, plus the things you just talked about, lower taxes, higher tax revenue, you look at that and you would say, my God, he should be running unopposed. I mean, why?
And these numbers, I appreciate it, and these numbers are really, I don't know how many.
Very conservative.
As an example, I had gasoline down to $1.87, not $2.57. Right. It's now almost at $4. It's going to be at $5 very shortly. Right. It's going way up.
I took very conservative numbers so people couldn't argue.
Well, interest rates, I was at 2.6%. They have 3.8. And now they're at 9%, 10%. You can't get money.
Okay, there you go. So the deal there is like, who's more cognizant of exactly what's going on and what's on people's mind? Of course, Donald Trump is. Enough so that he could refute Dr. Phil's numbers. Dr. Phil's reading them off. Trump's just rattling them off from memory. Tell me who's more competent here. Of course, it's Donald Trump. Biden needs to go. They know it. The media knows it, and they're just trying to make that happen. We'll be right back. We're going to take a break a little bit early here, and we're going to be right back, and we're going to talk with Charles Lipson, who's written about this, and get his opinion on it as well. Thanks for joining me tonight on The Real Story with Jeanne Ives.
The Real Story with Jeanne Ives continues on AM 560. The Answer.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining me this Sunday night, post-holiday. Appreciate you listening in. Maybe you're just driving back from vacation. I know I just got back from Houston, where gas prices were $2.89 in the suburb that my son lives in. $2.89. How do you like that, Illinois? Oh, well. All right, that's a whole nother story. That's actually what we should be talking about. Instead, we're talking about Biden's disastrous performances. But here's what Senator Kennedy had to say about that.
Senator Kennedy, this is a big deal that one of your Democratic colleagues, Senator Warner, is having this meeting. When Biden was asked about this, he said, oh, that's just one senator. But it sounds like a lot of senators have concerns. And I'm wondering, you work with these senators every day. Do you think their concerns were assuaged tonight?
I'm not sure, Kaylee, that interviews like the president gave tonight matter much at this juncture. You can't make this cat walk backwards. People saw what they saw in that 90-minute debate. And I think most of them think that it's only a matter of time before President Biden stumbles again, because they understand that old age doesn't get better, it gets worse. Fairly or unfairly, I think most Americans have made up their minds. I think they have concluded that President Biden is old, that he is likely suffering from some form of neurodegenerative disease, that he's suffered from it for a while, and that the White House and many members of the media industrial complex have covered it up. And that cover-up has been toxic, in my opinion, for what it's worth. Politically, I think President Biden, politically, is as dead as fried chicken.
Yeah, there you go. That Louisiana humor is just amazing. But somebody else who originated in the South is with us now and to give us his perspective on it. It's Charles Lipson. He's the professor emeritus at the University of Chicago. He writes regularly for The Spectator magazine, Real Clear Politics, and others. His columns are available free at charleslipson.com. Charles, thanks so much for joining me tonight.
Well, it's hard to follow Senator Kennedy, isn't it? He's just wonderful. He really is. And he's smart. I mean, he puts on the corn pone, but he's a smart guy, and I think he's got real insight here. I think Biden, we don't know if Biden will stay in, but if he stays in, he's toast. If he gets out, it's going to be a big problem for the Democrats because they have nowhere to go but Kamala. They can't bypass her without blowing up their coalition.
So Wall Street Journal has been keeping track of, the Democrats that are calling for Biden to exit in 2024. And it seems like there's, a growing concern. I mean, what do you think? Are they in the media going to be able to force him out?
It's hard to know, frankly. I mean, I'm with Yogi Berra. It's hard to predict, especially about the future. But I tried to talk with friends about both carrots and sticks. I don't see any carrots that they have, and I don't know if there are any sticks behind the scenes that they could use. It's all he's done his entire adult life is be a politician. I think he entered politics about the same time Machiavelli retired. And so it's all he's done. And the family fortune completely depends on it. The fact that they have Hunter Biden sitting in White House meeting is just stunning.
Well, I mean, that story has not gotten enough traction, in my opinion. It's scary. It really is. And you know what Lindsey Graham said in this Wall Street Journal article? He said, most Democrats are worried about Biden winning the election. I'm worried about Biden being the commander-in-chief for the next 4 months. We all should be worried, though, if Hunter Biden's sitting next to him.
Well, this is all true, and it's more than 4 months. Although right. I know a lot of people who are especially concerned about the period after a Democratic loss in early November and mid-January, which is when the new president takes over. They'll be unconstrained. But there is a real problem here, and it's important to understand that it comes at a time when people have very low trust in virtually all American institutions. And by the way, you are absolutely right about the media being in deep trouble on this because they've been part of a cover-up.
Well, and that's always been the case, right? That you name the issue, they've been there to cover it up or to leak it out the way that they wanted it to go. And I think that, I don't know. I mean, it feels like they got caught. They know that they got caught. And they're trying to salvage their own image. And that's why you're getting these Stephanopoulos interviews that are basically meaningless, but it shows, or at least, I mean, somebody actually told me, well, it appeared that he at least tried to push back a little bit. He was concerned about Biden's capability. Like, no, he wasn't. Like my producer, George, said, he's doing the bidding of whatever the Clintons say he should do.
Well, my sense, I'm largely with you, but I would put it a little like this.
Okay.
I think that all the talking heads now on the left are trying to push Biden out. It's not like they have a plan to succeed him, but I think they think, let's roll the dice. But the question is going to be, if they get him out, will all these people who've suddenly had their come-to-Jesus moment, they're just going to line up behind Kamala. It's not like they say, oh, we have really been caught out, and we're running editorials in lieu of news and calling it news. They're going to line up behind the Democratic candidate because they are the mainstream media is part of the Democratic coalition. And they they want to be. They think that that's the right thing to do for the country. Because, and by the way, one of the things that you're already seeing, Newsweek has a cover that runs, that's a picture of Donald Trump morphed into Hitler.
Yeah, I saw that. Mm-hmm.
And I think that they're going to do more and more of that because essentially they have January 6th, Trump is Hitler, and abortion. Those are their issues. And, you know, they're going to have to step on the others because it's all about whataboutism, right? I mean, they think not to damn Trump.
So it's not like it's the fourth quarter and you realize your team's losing, and so you're going to, you know, hey, we're just going to play it out. We're going to take the loss this time. We understand it. I mean, I tend to agree with John Kennedy, Senator Kennedy. I think that a lot of people have made up their minds, and that's what they're just already know how they're going to vote in November. They're probably not going to be swayed by that. On the other hand, the Democrats also know they have the media that buys ink by the gallon, and they know that the electorate is pretty much susceptible to the lies and the misinformation from the media. So is their play still to try and salvage this election? That is probably their play, is to salvage it, even though I think all options are terrible. Biden staying in is terrible. Replacing him is terrible, too. They're a party in disarray. And so instead of just taking the loss and being gracious about it, maybe bringing up some of the policy issues, they're probably going to try and lie about what's going on, or basically, yeah.
I think their real concern now is losing both houses.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And especially the Senate is just crucial because if Trump wins, first of all, Trump is much more experienced now. He knows his first term was hobbled by a permanent government, and he's going to bring in people who can manage that government. I think led by Ratcliffe. There may be others, Nunes, and so forth. And these will be people in key positions. He'll also have a keeper. I think he has big decisions to make about how much revenge and so forth he goes for. But I think that the biggest issue is for the Democrats will be to try to control Congress. I think that remember about 6 months ago, as recently as that, Jeanne, they were talking about the Democrats winning back control of the House. You don't hear that.
Yes, they
you
were.
You don't hear that anymore.
No.
And I get Democratic emails. For some reason, they think my name is Ellie. But I get these Democratic emails. They've given up on West Virginia, but they have, I think, 5 or 6 Senate races that they're in panic about, and they're, give us any kind of money you can. So right now they have their donors who seem to be looking down ballot. But if the president loses in many of these states by more than, say, 4 points, it's going to be really hard for the senatorial candidates and congressional candidates to finish that far ahead of him.
Yeah, so the replacing Biden isn't so much about winning the presidency at this point. It's more about salvaging what they can in the House and Senate because they know the top of the ticket matters. And if they show some modest or a bill, recognition that Biden needs to go, then the other people can distance themselves from her. And that's certainly what this Angie Craig is trying to do in Minnesota. She jumped ship, and she's in a very competitive race up there as a state rep, as a congressman. So, yeah, I don't know.
I think that's the future. My sense is that everything hinges on Pennsylvania. If Pennsylvania goes to Trump, I don't see any way that the Democrats could win the presidency.
Yeah, well, that's where Biden was. He was in Pennsylvania all Sunday with John Fetterman. I don't know. It seems like two of a kind.
No, Fetterman is a real wild card. He's really changed.
I know. Yeah, I know he has changed. But, boy, initially. But he admitted, he's like, hey, listen, I had a bad debate, too. Yeah, no kidding.
Well, I think that that's a critical point. they've been trying to sell it as a bad debate, but the thing is, the dogs aren't eating that dog food. It's just people understand this is serious decline, and you wait 8 days to go on a former Clinton staffer's interview, and then another 6 days to give an interview. So they're clearly not willing to risk putting Biden out in public, even now, and that's their only chance to recover. But they must think that the risks are even higher.
Yeah. So who pulls the ultimate strings here? Is it Obama? I mean, I just was clicking on that interview, and of course, an Obama support Biden with everything you can, chip in your $5 here. Commercial was on ahead of the YouTube. So is it Obama pulling the strings?
Well, on some things, but if Obama were pulling all the strings, I think that they would have had a somewhat different foreign policy. Biden's policy has been a day late and a dollar short on all the things that he's committed to, but he's still more pro-American than Obama. I think there are a lot of holdover Obama staffers in the White House who are pursuing his policies, but that's actually one of the critical issues that Trump should bring up. I mean, as long as Biden's in there, this is a country that's now being run by unelected bureaucrats and functionaries.
And that is the biggest problem, in my opinion. He's got to go. Okay, Charles Lipson, thanks so much for joining us. You can read his columns for free at charleslipson.com. Thank you so much for your time and your insight.
It's always a pleasure, Jeannie.